The man you're about to meet has unquestionably raised more goosebumps and curdled more blood than anybody in the history of storytelling. He's the high priest of horror, Stephen King. Just listen to some of these numbers. There are more than 170 million copies of his books in print worldwide. He's one of the most prolific writers ever. He's only 42 years old, but he's already written 30 books and 12 have been made into movies. According to Forbes, he's accumulated a little net worth of $50 million. Add to that a new book contract reportedly worth $30 million more. And it's not bad for a guy who describes his work as the literary equivalent of a Big Mac and fries. If you want to know how he does it, pull up a chair, turn down the lights, and lock the doors. We're going to go to Bangor, Maine, where Stephen King will be a tour guide through a twisted imagination. His own.
Well, if I didn't have the writing for an outlet, there wouldn't be any Steve King. I'd be dead. I would have either OD'd on dope or booze or driven a car into an abutment. I don't think it's out of the question that I could have been one of those guys who would climb up to the top of the Texas Tower with a carbine and just start blasting away. I don't think of myself as a naturally violent person or a naturally aggressive person. Well, I take that back. I think I am a naturally aggressive person. And I think almost all of that has been channeled into my work. People have a tendency to go after that when they talk to me about my stories and that sort of thing. You know, they'll sort of creep up on you and they think it's your blind side, and they'll just sort of slip into the conversation in this sort of sly way. By the way, what was your childhood like? You know, and you know that what they want, what they expect you to say on some level is, I was abused by my father. I was an orphan. I saw these terrible, horrible sexual confrontations between all these people. And as a result, I've been writing these awful, nasty stories all my life. But nothing could be further than the truth, from the truth. I grew up in a perfectly small, well, not in a perfectly normal way. That isn't true.
Do you think I'm weird? Definitely. No, man, seriously.
When I was a kid, my mother was sort of horrified to discover that I had kept a scrapbook of stories about a mass murderer named Charles Starkweather. And at some point before, you know, he actually rode the lightning, my mother found the scrapbook and she just horrified. She said, Stephen, what? Why are you interested in this? Do you think this man's some sort of a hero? And she was really angry at me. And I felt that if I could memorize his face, or at least the look in his eyes, that I would know that sort of person if they ever came my way. But it wasn't the sort of thing I could tell my mother. Well, my mother always said that she believed that my first experience with death was seeing a playmate of mine run over by a train. And since then, whenever I brought this up, there have been a lot of armchair psychologists in the field that have said, right, and that's why he writes the kind of stuff that he writes. What I remember the most clearly about the whole incident is not seeing the kid hit by a train, if I ever did, but hearing my mother say they had to pick up the pieces in a peach basket. That was the memory that stayed with me. And of course, some years later, when I told one of my friends in high school this story, he immediately said, well, of course you were upset. Probably you pushed him.
Hey, Gordo, why don't you tell us a story?
When I was going to school, the teacher would say, Stevie has written a story. Would you like to hear it, class? And they'd all go, yeah. You know, they liked my stories. And that was great. That was a trip.
I don't want to hear no horror stories. I'm not up for that, man.
But the real purpose was to try and stay sane, to get rid of the overload, because I had a big imagination. When I was in high school, I kept my eyes on two forms of human life. One was the abject loser, the Carrie Whites. The other form of life that's always interested me is the bully, the sort of human version of a coyote or a jackal.
They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh!
If a girl like Carrie says to herself one day, okay, I'm going to take all the hems of my skirts up, I'm going to get a perm, I'm going to get some new clothes, I'm going to learn how to wear makeup. This kid comes back to school, and the kids who have formed an image become not only hateful but furious at the effort of somebody to escape their station or their caste, so that then the jeering and the laughter becomes tinged with this real sort of aggressive ugliness, which is what takes place in Carrie at the prom. That's just the way that I see life. Look, you know, a lot of these interviews, the question that's the worst is people will say, where do you get your ideas? I don't know where I get them. You know, and if I did, man, would I tell you? I mean, Jesus, they've been good to me. All I know is that I sit down and I turn on the machine, and there's always that first 10 minutes that's like smelling a dead fish or walking into a monkey house. And then something will click a little tiny bit, and that leads to something else. And it's like choo, 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 until it's going faster and faster. And then you hit this kind of escape velocity. You're gone. The world, the normal, mundane, sort of stupid world where you got to do the breakfast dishes and you got to make the beds, you know, and you got to worry about getting the kid to the dentist. All that's gone. But there's a place where you have to walk away from it because it's so kind of addictive that otherwise you might just sit there and skip meals and just be lost in that world. And you wouldn't want to do that because that's sort of the way crazy people are in institutions. You know what I'm saying? The Shining was written at a time when I was discovering that fatherhood was a lot different than what I had thought it was gonna be. You walk into the kitchen and you see kid number 1 has been scribbling with crayons on the wall again, just as kid number 2 manages to spill his Dr. Pepper all over the manuscript that you're working on. And you're trying to deal with all these things, and this voice that comes from the alligator brain, the primitive brain at the back of your mind is saying, let's kill them all, okay? Let's just kill them all.
I'm coming! I'm coming, Dad!
I love my readers, and that's why if you want to explore something that's really sick, it's why do I want to scare these people that I really love? They write me letters, and they tell me that they love me too sometimes. And my reaction to all this is to take them in this kind of comforting embrace and say, come here, I want to talk to you. Let's go around the corner where there isn't anybody and you can never get back unless I let you. And I'm going to scare the living hell out of you. I can't help it. I'm just drawn that way.
If you're a Stephen King fan desperate for a fix, relax. His 30th book, 4 Past Midnight, is being released August 27th.